say how proud we are of you for winning this award. And I think, Mom, you often don't realize how many people you've helped through the years. And we're just amazed at your life, having started in Ireland and come here and all that you've accomplished.
Yep, and again, we are so proud of you and proud to be here tonight. And we certainly have learned a lot helping to put this on, through pictures and listening to stories that we didn't know, and it just makes us even more proud, and we're proud to say you're our mom.
Mom, congratulations on this award. I'm very happy for you, and I'm very proud. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Johnston, and I'm the President and CEO of Kennebec Savings Bank. And it is our pleasure to be here, my wife Judy and I, this evening to help recognize Moira and celebrate with her this wonderful award. Moira worked for the bank for a number of years. She was there when I joined the bank, and she always had a very loyal following of customers. People would wait for several minutes, sometimes lots of minutes, just to see Moira. So we certainly do miss her at the bank, but we wish her well and congratulate her on this wonderful award.
My name's Mary McElhaney. I'd like to welcome you to the 6th annual Claddagh Award celebration. It's the event where we gather as family and friends to celebrate our common heritage and recognize the contributions of the Irish to our great state of Maine. We remember the sentiments expressed in the Claddagh: friendship, loyalty, and love. Welcome all tonight. The dream of the Maine Irish Heritage Center would not be a reality if it weren't for each one of you in this room and hundreds of others. Thank you. I'd like to recognize our previous Claddagh recipients, many of whom are here tonight. Governor Joe Brennan, the first award recipient. Governor Connie convinced Joe that they needed to go on a trip since she'd spent many a cold November in Maine and she wasn't going to spend another one, but not this year. But when Joe became governor, he made the Irish proud and all of Maine, and it continues to this day. Gerard P. Connolly Sr., I know he's here somewhere. Thank you for your service to the state of Maine, and thank you to the entire Connolly clan for your loyalty to the Irish of Maine. Cynthia Murray Beliveau. For your dedication to the betterment of Maine communities, especially our new immigrants, and to putting up with Severin McCarthy Beliveau for all these years. Thanks to both of you. To Bill Ryan, for your contributions to the economy of our state, and for your never-ending dedication to help the Irish of Maine, and to Peg, Bill's soulmate, who saved him from a life of pumping gas. And last year's recipient, Senator George Mitchell, who makes us proud to be from Maine and proud to be Irish. I'd like to recognize my friend Jack McCormick. Jack was chair of the board and had been just for a very short time when the bell fell out of the tower. And Jack, for your just faith and perseverance, thank you. To our sponsors, to Maureen Coyne Norris, founding mother, and Bob Norris, you are both always there for us. Thank you. To tonight's honoree, Moira Hastings Fuller and Bob Fuller, for turning the heat up. We were warmed by the music of Boghat tonight, but come St. Patrick's Day 2014, thanks to your generosity, the heat will be on upstairs. To Unum for your ongoing contribution of talent and treasure. To our partners, St. Joseph College, for your continued support and the new Karen Lemke lecture series. To our friends and founding partner, the Irish American Club of Maine. We wouldn't be here without you. And to Conley, Cloutier, and Duffett for your unwavering support and friendship. To the Cashman boys, Jay and Jack of County Cork, Ireland, Boston, and Old Town. And to Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, thank you, Eddie Kane. Isn't it wonderful there's so many? Paul and Margaret Harmon for your time and treasure, and to Kennebec Savings Bank, the bank where the phone is always answered, even on a holiday. I know that personally. We thank you for your support of Maine's Irish and one of your own, Moira Hastings Fuller. To WEX for your continued leadership and expertise. To Rick and Liz Hanley, this is the first Claddagh they've missed. We missed them this year. They are retired in warm and sunny Florida. To Patricia McDonough Dunn, my longtime friend, counselor to the Maine Irish Heritage Center. Thank you, Pat. Special guests tonight include Chris and Erin Soule, whose brother David was a founding member of the Maine Irish Heritage Center. Sadly for all of us, David lost his battle with cancer this spring. His spirit will always guide us. Chris and Erin, to you and your family, thank you for your continued support and for the gift of the beautiful piece of David's Balik, which we will use as tonight's presentation piece. Board member Pat McBride, volunteer extraordinaire, building manager, all around everything, often says it's the families who keep us going. This, she remarks, as she's convincing her husband, Tom Flood, to spend his free days at the center doing whatever needs to be done and then serving as our accountant. One family especially epitomizes this commitment, the Kane Duval clan. We have Mark the treasurer, Eddie the photographer, Ann the auction planner, and Johnny the roof checker. And now they welcome new members to their clan. Yes, 2 weeks ago, Mark and Ann's daughter, Margaret, married Hugh, the son of Carmel and Patrick O'Shea of County Sligo, Ireland. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Hugh O'Shea. It's now my honor to introduce Senator Margaret Craven from Lewiston and County Galway, who will bring sentiments from the legislature.
I would like to invite Moira Hastings Fuller to come up and join me, because Jay Bilig agus fáilte gan Irish Heritage Centre, Portland, Maine, agus gohfuil muidilig a tuairt honor go Moira Hastings Fuller. Támuid an bhrontóir gohfuil sí an sealaigh agus gohfuil sí goras éiríní agus is a ben chanamara agus gonnearna sí go mála hí hain nuair a tháinig sí go the US agus támuid an bhrontúil again I ríist mar bheallar gohfuil sí an gaeilge a labhairt agus támuid thankful. So, Mary McElhaney asked me to speak some Irish so that you would know what your heritage sounded like before you got to America. And what I said to Moira was that we are so very proud of her. We are very grateful to her, and I am especially proud because she's an Irish-speaking woman from Connemara and from Galway. Yay! We are so grateful that she did well here when she came to the U.S. and that she was generous enough to share her bounty with the Irish Heritage Centre and with the people of Maine. And truly, it is just such an honor that we are able to contribute to our new, to our adopted country, and it's just fabulous. So I do bring a message from the Maine State Senate, though, and want to read that to Moira, which I can't tell you how proud I am that you are a Connemara woman as well. Be it known to all that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, join in recognizing Moira Hastings Fuller of Winthrop, who is the recipient of the Claddagh Award from the Maine Irish Heritage Centre for her dedication and generosity to communities throughout the state. Of the Claddagh Award recipient, Mrs. Fuller is the first whom is Irish-born. We extend our appreciation to Mrs. Fuller and congratulate her on her receiving this distinguished award. And be it ordered, this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 126th Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. And it is signed by Justin Alfont, President of the Senate, Mark Eves, Speaker of the House, Derek Grant, Secretary of the Senate, and Millicent McFarlane, Clerk of the House. And it is sponsored by moi. I have to be like a dual personality because I live in Lewiston and I love my constituents. Margaret Craven from Androscoggin County, Representative Hickman of Winthrop, he is your representative. We have a Representative Diane of Portland, Senator Ketchell of Cumberland, Representative Jorgensen of Portland, Representative Farnsworth of Portland, Representative Chipman of Portland, Senator Flood of Kennebec County, President Alfont of Cumberland County, Representative Stuckey of Portland, Representative Harlow of Portland, Representative Noonan of Portland, and Representative Russell of Portland. And thank you. Thank you. Would you like to say a word? Sorry.
Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Father Frank Morin to give us his blessing. Following the blessing, our friends from Sopo Catering will come and usher you to the food. And so in the meantime, after the blessing, while you're waiting for your chance to go to the buffet table, enjoy yourselves and continue the party. Father Frank.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. I didn't know I was going to be asked to do this. I just was able to get in here after driving around the neighborhood for 15 minutes trying to find an empty spot. But I'm way out on Brackett Street, so I ran down. But thank you for the invitation, Moira and Bob, to be here this evening. And it's an honor to be here as you get this award and this recognition. So let's bow our heads now in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing upon our gathering tonight, and especially upon our honoree, Moira Fuller. We give you thanks for her generosity and her support, her interest in the promotion of all of the efforts of the community that gathers in is part of this Irish American Heritage Center to promote awareness of and appreciation of and respect for the wonderful heritage the Irish people cherish and remember and bring with them and perpetuate as they settle in the different parts of our world. We ask, Lord, that you bless each person here and the food we're about to share, and the Irish people who are struggling at this time again with the downturn in their economy. And we ask that you bless all who cherish and appreciate the heritage that we celebrate this evening. We pray in your name as our Father and as our Creator and one who loves us and seeks us to love one another. Amen.
There's just a few more quick thank yous to Sopo Catering for that wonderful dinner. Dan Mahoney and Kimberly Clark for the audio-visual work. Josh Swan of Media Northeast. The Claddagh Pipe Band. Dale Rand for printing. Bog Hat for music. Sarah Lennon Design. Baldacci Communications. And Smith Atwood Video Services. It's now time to celebrate the journey of an Irish girl, a daughter of County Galway, Ireland, whose journey brought her to Maine, Moira Hastings Fuller. Please sit back and enjoy the video. You will then hear from Sister Elizabeth Wagner of the Transfiguration Hermitage in Windsor, Maine, First Lady Karen Baldacci, and Moira's daughter, Diane Hastings.
Originally, I came from Ireland, from a little village in the west of Ireland, in Connemara. I was born on the ocean near Clifton. It's in County Galway. We got along fine, you know, on what we had. I was the oldest of 9, and I have 4 sisters and 4 brothers. And my father was a farmer, and he tilled the land. We had a fairly decent farm, you know, as farms go in Ireland. And we grew all our own vegetables and had cattle, grazing cattle. His first name was Festus, middle name was Alphonsus, and it was MacDonald. He was quieter, and he'd read everything. I remember him reading a lot. And he actually had come out to the United States because all his family had come, and then he went back to Ireland and he married my mother. Her name was Mary Margaret Connolly. She had taken nursing courses, and she had never become a full-fledged RN, but she was always there for everybody. She was like the guardian angel who was there running around if somebody was sick or if anything happened or somebody was giving birth or whatever, she was there. The one thing I remember most about her was her smile. I always remember her laughing because she was just a happy person. We did have hens and eggs, and I remember one time when I was a kid, I was into painting, and I was around and about, and my mother didn't pay too much attention to me because she had other things to do. And I painted all the chickens purple. I had about 12 or 13, maybe more, painted. And she didn't notice it. She didn't come out to see it. The mailman came by and he saw all the purple chickens and he said, "Oh, what kind of breed are those?" And I didn't say anything at all, so he went around delivering the mail from house to house, and he was saying, "Well, you should go back and see Mary Margaret's chickens." He said, "I've never seen anything like them." I was very amused by it, but my mother wasn't so amused by it when everybody started coming to the house to see the chickens. I went first to the local school, which was about a mile from our house. It was a two-room schoolhouse, and I liked poetry. I remember that very well. I was into the higher grades, and it wasn't as nice as it was in the first 4 grades. The teacher, well, he rarely came to school, and he didn't pay too much attention to the children. But then I went away to secondary school, and there I had the nuns, the Sisters of Mercy, and my life changed, and I loved secondary school. I just liked to learn what I had missed, in the 8th grade, 7th and 6th. I liked the way the sisters taught us, and it was very different. We talked about the United States a lot because we still had relatives out here. It was always positive. I think they thought that, there were all kinds of riches to be had in America, and Ireland, they were few and far between. You just got by, and that was it. My aunt from Long Island came over to Ireland, and I had just finished my high school, and she wanted my sister Anne to go over with her. So my father finally agreed to let my sister go back with her, and he decided that I should go with her. And that's how I came to the United States. It was a big deal. They used to have what they called wakes for us before we left, because we were leaving for the United States. And all the people in the village and all around would come and say, well, ask goodbye to us, which was sad in a way. We left, just the two of us, and we took a bus to Cove, which is the port in Cork, and we left on the SS America. The trip was 7 days. I remember seeing the Statue of Liberty, and we had heard so much about it, and it was just beyond comprehension when we just stood there and looked at it. We just said, here we are. I was able to find a job at Consolidated Edison, and I worked in the bookkeeping department, and I was very much a stranger. And the girls who really came to help me, I remember, were the black girls. They were really intrigued with, me and listening to what I was saying and everything. So I thought that was very nice. And then when I found my way around and learned, to go to New York, I would go to places like the Jagger House or whatever it was called. It was Irish, all the Irish went there. It was mostly music and dancing. Then I worked at a bank. I got a job at Bank of New York. I ended up coming to Maine. I had relatives in Maine. I came to visit, and I liked it. I loved Maine. I came to Portland, and I liked the ocean and the fact that it was very similar to home. And I got into banking and stayed in that for a long 30 years. I started working for Depositors Trust first, and then I got into Kennebec Savings Bank and stayed there. All the Irish that I've met and known in Maine, they've always been very hard-working people. I think, they came to Maine and they came to work in Maine, and that's what I've seen. And I think they've always been an asset to the state of Maine. I was always proud of who I was, and I tried to make, an impression. And like when I went to work for Kennebec Savings, Ray said, where did you come from in Ireland? And I said, County Galway. And he said, oh, my mother, came from County Clare. I've met Joe Brennan many times over the years. And we'd talk about where we were from. And I'd always bring Clifton up, and he would say, oh, well, that's where my folks came from, and we'd always, even when he'd meet me sometime somewhere, he'd say, how's everything in Clifton, or something like that. I think the Maine Irish Heritage Centre is important for the good work it has done and is continuing to do. We have to leave a legacy. I'm very proud of being Irish.
With a last name like Wagner, you might think I'd be out of place in this gathering. But you know, way back centuries ago, it was Irish hermits and monks who evangelized those barbaric German tribes. And I can't help but wonder if one of those wandering monks, somewhere back in my ancestry, didn't find a Rhine maiden a lot more attractive than poverty, chastity, and obedience. So here I am today, a wannabe Celt. And Sister Bernadette, a wannabe Irish, Asian Irish. And I want to pay tribute to Moira. I'm not going to talk about her family. I'm not even going to talk about her gardens, of which I am inordinately jealous. I want to talk about her Irish Catholic heritage. Her Irish Catholic heritage, and perhaps the heritage of many of you. So I'll get serious for a little bit. Here's a quotation from St. Paul's letter to the Romans. He says, "In one body we have many members. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us. Prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the exhorter in exhortation, the giver in generosity." The giver in generosity. I read those words recently and I could think of one unique person, Moira. The giver in generosity. Paul places this in his list of the gifts God gives us, right up there with leadership, which comes next, and to which he ascribes not power, but diligence or service, and next to compassion, or in another translation, mercy. I remember when I first met Moira, Cynthia Murray Beliveau, another Claddagh honoree, had invited us to a get-together she was giving. I remember this rather quiet couple who came over and introduced themselves. We spoke briefly, but all I really remembered was her lovely Irish accent. A week or so later, we received a call from Moira to tell us she would be sending a donation. In retrospect, I realized that she saw us, liked us, and decided to help. Leadership in seeking us out. Compassion in assessing our need. Generosity extended. But there's more. Generosity is an important gift from God. What does this mean? I think the answer is found in another quote from the Gospel of Luke. "Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap." Hidden in the background of this saying is a picture Jesus is giving us of who God is. God, the superabundant giver, the giver at the heart of all givers. God, the superabundant giver, the one at the heart of all givers and all generosity. I can't think of anyone who exemplifies this the way Moira does. Our hermitage is but one example of her generosity. But her generosity to us illuminates something significant about her, and through her, about God. For our hermitage is a very tiny and new community. We don't do anything or make anything that's important in the world's eyes. I was telling people here tonight, we make fruitcakes to support ourselves. Don't eat and drive if you buy one. We work hard the way all monastics do, and we have a small retreat ministry. But what we're really about is prayer. It's about lifting up this poor, bleeding, wounded world to God and calling God's help and mercy down upon it. But it's a hidden life, and there's no way to quantify it or prove it gets results. It's totally unimportant, at least seen from the outside. So it's hard to find people today to see the value of it. You have to be able to see beneath the surface. For that, you need faith. Moira, true to all that is best in her Irish Catholic upbringing, has that faith and that generosity. But there's still more. Moira and I had a conversation once about Maine. It's kind of an underdog state, I said, and I like it for that. And she agreed. Maine, it's a bit off the beaten track. It's not the most populous, it's not the richest, not the most powerful among the states. What it does have, emphatically, is quality of life and citizens who mostly work together on things. It's a wonderful state. And Moira has supported the state, supported its people and its institutions. She and Bob have reached out to support so many people in so many ways. The hospitals, the theaters, the local nonprofits, and so many, many little people struggling to get by and needing help. There's another saying of Jesus, whatever you do to the least of my brethren, that you do unto me. Moira has reached out her hand and her heart to the least of her brethren, the little ones of the gospel, the children, the poor, the elderly. She's reached out her hands and her heart to this little but great state of Maine and its people. Moira, I know that someday when you leave this earth, you will hear the Lord saying to you, you have done so much for the least of my brethren, and you have done it for me. Thank you, Moira, with all our heart. Thank you for gifts, for generosity, and especially for showing us the very human and generous heart of God.
Good evening. My name is Karen Baldacci, and it's an honor to be here tonight to honor someone who I admire and respect. When I just have to say, I don't know if I can top the stories of purple chickens or quote the gospel, but I will do what I remember best. I have been to 2 of these and know 3 of the honorees. I think I was here with Governor Brennan when he received the first award, and Jerry Conley Sr., who's beyond my view, but I know he's here tonight, and Cynthia Murray Bellevaux, who certainly are worthy and deserving. I must say I'm here with my son tonight, Jack. The governor had a previous commitment. He is actually at the Irish Heritage Center. I hear a few giggles already. He is the Italian Heritage Center, excuse me. I got it wrong already. Sorry, Bob. He's with Dancing with the Dentists tonight, and he's a judge along with Dr. Christine Northrup, Ken Ashler, and he is judging, not dancing. But I know he sends his best regards to Moira. I do want to say that there are many here that went, my impressions of Ireland were when John was in office, it was the first trade mission that we went, and there are many of you in the room who perhaps ventured back to the Emerald Isle with us. And when I came to this center, there are many familiar faces, and this church, St. Dominic's, and the environment and culture of Irish heritage. My personal heritage is English. Sorry if I've been in any of those there. But that's that warm feeling. I try to think of the attributes of Moira Fuller. Why is it that I love to listen to her speak? Not only the red hair that's been passed down to her family and her grandchildren. When I first met her at the Blaine House, her and Bob were very active in the Friends of the Blaine House. But what is it about Ireland that I see in Moira, and what is it about Moira that reflects back to Ireland? I think Sister had done it well in describing the gospel and her attributes there. But what I remember is when I listen to Moira speak, I feel that warmth and that welcome, the same experience I had when we ventured over to Ireland, that sharp wit, the intellect, the caring, the feeling of her giving me like I was a family member, which I'm sure all of her family can express. And the parallels that we had, I knew her daughter Linda, who was a kindergarten teacher and worked at St. Mary's at that time. My son actually attended there at St. Dom's with Cormac, who's here tonight, and there's Cliff and Darby, who I've met. I met wonderful daughter Diane, and Tom is here also, and Larry is not able to attend, and forgive me if I've left anyone out. But it's such a warm welcoming family to meet, and it's just an extension of that family that Moira has created. It's so appropriate for her to receive the Claddagh Award. And Mary McElhaney, I promise I'll stick to my 3 to 5 minutes. When she called me to say that I would be speaking, it's like, Karen, they're Irish. You can't spend more than 3 to 5 minutes. You'll lose their attention. So I'll stick to the public speaking 3 Bs of be good, be quick, and be gone. So I'll try to stick to that. The Claddagh Award of Love, Loyalty, and Friendship also are attributes that are so fitting for Moira, who is a daughter of the coast of Galway, where the original Claddagh came from a fishing village outside the old city walls of Galway also. So it's kind of like a full circle going back to that. Moira's work that's been very familiar to me is the Friends of the Blaine House, who we had the honor and privilege to occupy for 8 years. She and Bob were there from day one. You talk about giving, it's not just the charity, it's the giving of time and effort. She came to the meetings. She took an interest in the projects. She had a true interest, and there's a lot that are there now, the New England Garden, the greenhouse, many of the refurbishings of the interior. You may not know that, yes, the Blaine House is the people's house in the state of Maine, but unfortunately there's no budget to take care of that. So it's relying on the fundraising and those that care. And I can truly say that Moira took on interest in that, and the Blaine House is what it is today, largely on behalf of her and Bob's donations and giving of time and money and effort and continuing that. So I could not come to one of these events without sharing one of those famous Irish quotes, or what do we say, insights or poems. It's not going to be Keats, but it is a favorite one of mine. It's easy to be pleasant when life flows by like a song, but the man worthwhile is the one who can smile when everything goes dead wrong. For the test of the heart is trouble, and it comes with years. And the smile that is worth the praises of earth is a smile that shines through the tears. Thank you, Moira.
Okay, it's hard to go last. Some of my stories I've been told, but first I wanted to say I'd like to congratulate the Irish Heritage Center on this beautiful space and all their work to restore and maintain this building. I have never been here and it's beautiful. I also want to thank you for the very wise selection of this year's recipient of the Claddagh Award. And I know that our family is a little biased, but with all due respect to the well-deserving past recipients, we are extremely grateful to the Irish Heritage Center for recognizing the contributions that my mother has made to her adopted state of Maine, and in particular the central Maine region where she has lived and called home for over 43 years. I speak for my sister Linda and my brother Tom, who are here, and my younger brother Larry, who is not able to make it this evening, when I say that our mom truly does live out on the daily basis what the Claddagh symbol represents: love, friendship, and loyalty. And she carries it out with creativity, hard work, faith, and courage. As Maureen O'Hara once claimed, "Above all else, deep in my soul, I am a tough Irish woman." It's also true for my mom. Growing up in the west of Ireland bred a certain strength and compassion for others, and that is very much evident in who she is today. Tonight I want to share a few of the lessons that my mother taught us, her children, about love, friendship, and loyalty while we were growing up. The first and most enduring lesson I learned from my mother was that love is a verb, not a noun. It involves action. Some acts are small but quotidian, and I don't mean any slight to those of you who have frozen waffles for dinner or for breakfast, or heaven forbid no breakfast at all, which is not very Irish. But one of the daily symbols of my mother's love was the heaping bowl of porridge waiting for us each morning before heading off to school. The porridge not only fortified us nutritionally, but also fortified us with Mom's love. In fact, the first words of Gaelic that I ever heard, if I didn't quite manage to consume the entire bowl of porridge, was Oscail na Bhéal, open your mouth, and Dúm na Bhéal, close your mouth. We were well fortified and learned that love is something that we give to one another and not just an abstract idea. Another lesson she taught us is at the core of loyalty, and this was alluded to in the film. That is, the devotion to loved ones often involves sacrifice and a leap of faith. Last summer on the trip to Ireland, I discovered that my mother did not really want to immigrate to America. She had just received her leaving cert and actually wanted to stay in Galway. Yet she didn't hesitate to change her plans and her dreams when her father asked her to accompany her younger sister Anne over to live with relatives and finish school in America. And she talked about this a little, but I didn't realize the implications of acquiescing to that request, and that you would get an American wake because you might not see friends and relatives again. And indeed, she did not see her father again because she didn't make it back to Ireland before he passed away. So I was reminded that the world was a much larger place at that time, and taking a ship to another country was akin to letting go of everything and everyone with the very real likelihood of not seeing them again. The third lesson my mother taught us growing up was about friendship, and it is summed up in the Irish saying by William Butler Yeats, "There are no strangers here, only friends we haven't met. Moreover, once you are my mother's friend, we revert to the first lesson, love is a verb." My mother has a particular compassion for women who are working hard to make ends meet, or perhaps not quite making it in raising a family. In high school, I recall my mother grocery shopping for items that we didn't use, or purchasing duplicates of foods. Being somewhat curious, some would say nosy, I asked and discovered that she was buying extra for another family in town whose mother did not have a steady job. She was doing this at a time when she was also a single working mother of 4, struggling to make ends meet. I gathered it was just the Irish way. Even today, I'm not surprised when I visit and we spend the day running errands, which always includes a visit to friends at every little shop, big store, restaurant, hair salon, so that she can offer a little encouragement or perhaps sneak them a little generous tip, as she remembers how difficult it is to provide for a family as a single parent. And this is true if you're a friend of 20 years or a friend of a few days. She takes the time to get to know the people around her and their struggles, and then support them in whatever way she can. And the final lesson that I have time to share, because even though I was giving a little extended time frame, I was still given a time frame, will not come as a surprise, and that is, be grateful, and our gratitude is most often visible through our creativity. Mom is extremely creative and extremely, without a doubt, extremely grateful as well. Her paintings are sometimes mystical in content, and as a good Irish woman, she paints nature, oceans, trees, the seasons, but all are scenes from Maine. The number of paintings she has accomplished defy the hours in a day, and we have decided that she paints while the rest of us are sleeping, and in fact, she used to get up at 4 a.m. and go out and paint. As she's not doing painting in the wee hours of the morning anymore, she creates in her garden, and every square centimeter of that garden blossoms. To demonstrate gratitude for our place on earth by creating beauty is a choice that she has encouraged in all of us. It is also a mission she has supported through her service on community committees at the Blaine House and the Maine State Museum, as well as through support of local Maine artists. I would be remiss tonight if I didn't mention one other special person. I think in the 1940s, the saying, "Behind every great man is a great woman," was first heard. Well, my mother is also a role model for equality, so I would like to say, behind every great woman is a great man. And my mother gets a lot of love, support, and strength from her husband, Robert Fuller. And Bob, we know you eat a lot of homemade porridge. Mom, I know that you prefer to work in the background and you don't like to draw attention to yourself, and you always tell us,
I'm not a speaker, but you should know that your actions speak very clearly, and you have provided a better roadmap for your children and grandchildren than many, many spoken words. We are so grateful to be your children and so proud of you this evening. And with that, I'd like to introduce my mother, Moira Fuller.
Thank you. It's good to speak to a group who can understand my accent. Some people listen to my accent and look at me and look at my hair and say, "Are you Swedish?" And sometimes I answer, yeah. It is quite an honor to receive this award. Recent winners have brought peace to Ireland, changed the course of Maine history, and had a few other minor accomplishments. In fact, it's a little daunting. Tonight I want to elaborate on my experiences that were the subject of the video. I started in a farmhouse in rural Ireland. I was the oldest of 9 children. We lived in Connemara outside the town of Clifton. The countryside was like the coast of Maine, with farm fields running to the sea. In fact, my mother once said when she visited America that Maine and Ireland must have been attached at one time because they have so much in common. My father was a farmer. My father planted potatoes and turnips and carrots and corn and lots of greens. We had cattle and milk cows and a couple of donkeys. He also had a boat, or a curragh as we call it in Connemara. He fished for lobsters. We'd have them cold for breakfast. All of us liked to fish. The farm supplied most of our needs, but it was very hard work. I remember my father coming in from the fields at night, completely exhausted. My mother cooked a big dinner for him and for all of us. After dinner, when the dishes were done, we all knelt down to say the rosary. And then we said another rosary for whatever special intention Daddy had that night. Kneeling on the cement floor was not easy on the knees. Daddy was very religious. All of us children were sent to confession every Saturday. As I walked to church, I tried to think of some sins to tell the priest. Every week it was the same story. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I fought with my sister three times, Father. There was a lot of singing in our house. Daddy liked to sing, and especially American songs, like the one from the Depression. Why don't you work like other folks do? How can I work when there's no work to do? Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. A few nights a week, a Shawnee, or storyteller named Festus Conroy, would come to our house. He'd sit by the fire and tell stories and sing songs of long ago. We kids, we played outside all day in the summer. There was a rock formation on the coast, very like Thunder Hole in Arcadia Park, which made a crashing noise when the tide came in. We used to dare each other to make a running jump over the gap to the other side. I never had any hesitation as a child,
But when I saw it again as an adult, shivers went down my spine. I went to a 2-room schoolhouse about a mile from the farm. We had a kind and lovely teacher for the first 4 grades who taught us poetry. I loved it. I recited poems morning, noon, and night. The teacher apparently noticed because she called on me to recite every time someone visited the classroom. Grades 5 to 8 were not so good. We had a mean man named Richie King as teacher. He was a drunk. He didn't show up much. But when he did, he brought a heavy stick to beat us. In the 8th grade, my parents sent me to a convent school 10 miles away, run by the Sisters of Mercy, the same nuns who teach at Macaulay High. We had painting classes and nice uniforms, and we put on Shakespeare plays, and I acted as Portia in The Merchant of Venice. The quality of mercy is not strained, it droppeth as gentle rain from heaven upon place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blessed him that gives and him that takes. I loved it. My sister and I went to America. I remember the feeling of awe as the 2 of us walked up the gangway with our meager belongings into the grand ocean liner, the SS America. We shared a cabin with a Jewish lady from France and her daughter, the first Jewish people we had ever met. My sister went to Long Island as planned, but I stayed in Brooklyn with another aunt. I went to Brooklyn College and studied business 3 nights a week and worked at Consolidated Edison during the day. It was a busy time. You had to make sure you took the right train, the BMT, the IRT, or the Independent, or get lost, which I did plenty of times. There were many sights and sounds that I remember from my first days in America. I remember the Horn and Hardart, where you could go in and see an array of sandwiches and pies, and then you put in a quarter, and miracle of miracles, the door opened up and you had a delicious tuna sandwich. Then another sandwich popped up and took its place. I also remember feeling in awe of the roller coaster at Coney Island, not just the size of the structure, but also at the sheer number of people getting on and off. My life story goes on from here. How I moved to Central Maine to be with other cousins. How I met and married a man who belonged, as he told me, to the Church of Henry VIII. Who says mixed marriages never work? Bob and I have 4 wonderful children and 7 amazing grandchildren. I worked in banking for 30 years, most at Kennebec Savings Bank, a great institution. Mark, where are you? How I've helped out causes at the YMCA, the Maine State Museum, the Garden Club, the Maine Historic Society, and the Blaine House. I've tried to give back in a small way to what America has given me. I won't go into detail about this for 2 reasons. First, you don't have another 45 minutes to hear my stories. And second, by the time I left New York, I had become an American. The transition from Irish farm girl to Irish American city girl was complete. Looking back, I feel my life has fulfilled the dream contained in a favorite poem. As a girl, I recited the poem out loud at home and at school. The poem is called The Old Woman of the Roads. It expresses the universal desire for a safe home of one's own. I'd like to close by reciting that poem again, as I once did years ago to visitors in my Connemara classroom. Oh, to have a little house, to own the hearth and stool and all, the heap of sods upon the fire, the pile of turf against the wall. To have a clock with weights and chains and pendulums swinging up and down, a dresser filled with shining delf, speckled and white and blue and brown. I could be busy all the day, cleaning and sweeping hearth and floor, and fixing on that shelf again my white and blue and speckled store. I could be quiet there at night beside the fire and by myself, sure of a bed and loath to leave the ticking clock and the shining delf. Oh, but I'm weary of mist and dark, and roads where there's never a house or bush, and tired I am of bog and road, and the crying wind and the lonesome hush. And I'm praying to God on high, and I'm praying him night and day for a little house, a house of my own, out of the winds and the rain's way. I've been blessed to have found that house here in Maine, a house of my own filled with love, out of the wind and the rain, in a wonderful and supporting community. I am very grateful to God, and I am very grateful to all of you for this honor tonight. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bob Fuller. This is Moira's night, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time taking your time up with speeches. There are two things, however, I want to say. I made two great decisions in my life. The first was to come back to Maine. My family was originally from Maine, but for reasons known best to them, they went to Massachusetts. However, I came back to Maine as soon as I got out of law school. It was great. There were only 29 other people who sat for the bar with me. The line proved to be a lot shorter. So that was my first great decision. The second great decision in my life was to marry Moira. And I have enjoyed every minute of it. As her family has said, she's a very loving person, and it has been a great pleasure and a great asset to me to be with her the time that I have been with her. She's taught me a great deal about patience, and she's taught me a great deal about the nutritious benefits of oatmeal.
Thank you, Moira, for sharing your journey with all of us. And if Father Feeney would please sing the Irish blessing, and with that we would wish you, in Moira's words, safe home. Thank you all. Father Feeney.
The road rise up to greet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, the sunshine warm upon your face, until we meet again, until we meet again. May God hold you, may God hold you in the palm of His hand. God bless.